And we are live. Welcome back, everybody, and we hope everybody's having a great start to the week. We are back with another live episode of 305 Takes. Today, Miles and I will recap the Week 5 NFL slate as we bounce around the league and talk about all the things that have been going on right now. In fact, a fun fact for everyone, this is the first time since 1970 that every team has at least one win. So, talk about a stat. And before we get started, we got to give a shout out to E2G Sports. Visit e2gsports.com for all news covering every sport. Stay up to date with NBA, MLB, NFL throughout the week. You guys can get your latest sports news there. And we are now going to talk some fantasy football because, hey, we got to talk about the status of both me and Miles in our league and E2G league real quick. So, quick note for everyone: Miles already won his matchup this week. It's technically over. The score is 99-66. Miles is up, and him and his opponent both have one player left to play. I kind of find it hard that Edward Hilaire is gonna give you minus 20 points.
I hope not. That would be terrible if he gave me minus 20 points. But yeah, it's looking like a victory in that league. But as I was telling you, I don't think I'm gonna have a lot of success this week in every other league that we're in. We got some controversy brewing in the E2G league as far as scoring.
Well, we really don't know because that's a whole depth chart thing with the Saints.
I think it's pretty cut and dry. I think it's pretty cut and dry if you ask me.
Okay, so for anyone that doesn't know, in the E2G Sports League, in the quarterback part, you have a quarterback group. You don't have players. You just have
so you take the team's quarterback room, basically.
Yeah. So we had the Saints in reference to Jameis Winston, who played college football here in Florida, because we wanted to do a whole Florida team. So we're like, all right, we're going to have Jameis as our guy. So we picked the Saints. And next thing you know, Jameis goes down. And yesterday, Taysom Hill balled out. But we basically got the stats for Andy Dalton.
That's it. We only got Andy Dalton.
For anyone that doesn't know, Taysom Hill is also listed on the depth chart as a quarterback and a tight end.
Yeah, so on the depth chart, he's third team quarterback. But with Jameis being out, my argument is with Jameis being out, he gets elevated to second quarterback. So if Dalton comes in, right, and Taysom Hill is the quarterback the rest of the game, we still don't get those points? That's what I'm saying, Bray. It looks like they just put in the backup for a couple gadget plays, and I think we should get those points. What the heck? Okay, we don't get the points for his receiving touchdown. That I'm fine with. But the 3 passing touchdowns and run up those points, fam.
Didn't he rush for them?
I thought one was passing because one was to Topman. I thought, and the other two might be rushing. Yeah, so we'll see what happens there. And the other thing that's confusing about that, so because it's team quarterback room, it's not like you can have quarterbacks on your roster. So there's no, Lamar Jackson or Geno Smith to pick up. But Taysom Hill is an available player and on somebody's team right now. So that's the sticky situation there, because it's like, all right, so if we get the points for Taysom, what does that mean for the guy that actually has Taysom Hill on his team? So I don't know. I feel like we should be getting the points, but I'm obviously biased. And listen, I'm not going to make too big of a deal about it because, like I said, our goal was to not come in last place in this league, and we've already racked up 2 victories. So as far as I'm concerned, we're ahead of the curve. Job still not finished. Shout out Kobe. Job not done. Job not finished.
Yeah, we still got some things to do, but I feel like we have a pretty good shot at getting far. The only thing I wanted to go back to our league, bro. I told everyone, I told Mal this before. If I'm not playing the person I'm playing this week or Moises in our league, I win. I'm 95% sure I beat everyone, and it wouldn't even be close.
That's the tough part about fantasy, because you look at the other scores and you're like, oh my god, bro, I would be blowing this guy out right now.
I have 145 points. Now I'm just gonna read everyone who scored less than me. Peter, 104. Edwin, 38 points. Miles, 99. Ryan, 66. Nick, 79. Dom, 98. And then JP, 111. Yeah. I've outscored all of them. I have 145. I would be crushing it. But That's the thing about fantasy. Luck has to roll your way. Luck
It
has to
definitely
roll your
does,
way.
and it's all the schedule and when your guys decide to pop. Because sometimes you put up an absolutely ridiculous number, and the guy you go against puts up an even bigger number, and it's like, I did everything I could. I didn't have any players on the bench that outscored any of my starters, and I just happened to run into a team that just went off this weekend.
Yeah,
That's the part that like is like, oh my god, I hate fantasy, and it's also like this is exactly why I play it. Like I love watching it. The predictions change and the projections, especially like I like looking at it at halftime of the 1 o'clock games and then right before the 4 o'clock games start because it's like, all right, I'm at 68% winning in this league. Okay, I don't have to check it until before the Sunday night game goes, and then I'll look at one of my ESPN leagues and it's like 52%. I'm like, oh, it's gonna be a
that's not
sweat.
me.
Yeah,
I'm
you check it all the time?
I'm checking it constantly because I'm
Oh
always like
no,
worried. I'm like, oh man, like what am I? Whenever one of my players like scores, I'm like, all right, let me check the update. I got to see now, are any of his guys popping off? Because whenever I'm watching Red Zone, I'm always so dialed into all the players I have. I'm dialed in on that. So
100% because you know everybody that you already have.
yeah, and anyone who I don't know, I'm like, all right, wait, is that guy a part of this person's team? I got to see right now. So that's always me. I'm always checking it like every 20 minutes. I'm checking the score. I'm like, all right, what's the score?
Damn.
Okay,
Nah,
good.
I usually try to hold off until halftime because I feel like halftime is a good barometer to be like, oh my god, I'm not getting anything from this guy today, or that's when you might get some injury news, stuff like that. Which I mean, it's not gonna help you because your lineup's already locked in, but I can't do it all the time because there's so much stuff could happen. Next thing you know, somebody fumbles and now it's -2 off the score you just saw, or your quarterback throws a pick six, so it's like, or you get the 50-yard gain. He didn't score a touchdown, but he got 50-yard gain, so you get the boost for that. So there's a lot of stuff that goes. So I'd like to keep myself halftime 1 o'clock games, and then after the 1 o'clock games finish, and right before the 4 o'clock games start.
That's what I did. I almost had that strategy last year when we did our league. But when it came to like playoffs, I was like, bro, I was checking that thing like every 5 minutes. Like every 5 minutes, I was checking the score.
Well, the playoffs are a different animal because that's when you're like, oh my god, I literally cannot lose. Like I will be upset for the rest of the day if I lose this week, and especially if it's playoffs and you just like have no shot. Like once you're like 38% chance of winning, you're like, all right, let me close the
It's
app.
like you're
Like,
holding on to that percentage. It's like, all right, I just need you to have the game of your life.
and then you start having terrible thoughts in your head. You're like, maybe he gets injured, but not like anything crazy. Just out for the rest of the game. Sprains an ankle. You just rolled it real quick. Just something that doesn't affect his career, but just holds him out for the rest of the game, so he can't put up any more stats on.
And then you're also looking at the other like matchups. Is like, all right, who am I going to play next week? And you're constantly checking their score.
Yeah, and that's why I have to wait to check at halftime because I also want to see what my boys are doing. So like I want to know, oh, this kid's beating this kid, whatever. And then if I check it too many times, then it's going to keep changing, and I'm not going to know what's going on.
Man, that's what I love and hate about fantasy football. But man, I think what we have to do now, before we start with our busts and stars of the week, with some news of the Panthers head coach Matt Rule being fired. This actually impacts a lot of fantasy owners. So, Myles, is it time to sell any Panthers player someone has on fantasy?
Whew. I mean, the only thing is if you sell them now, you're definitely selling as low as possible. As
Yeah,
low as possible. I mean, the main guys we're really, really talking about, it would be CMC and DJ Moore. And I know DJ Moore has been super frustrating for most fantasy owners that have him. I think there is potential for his numbers to bounce back a little bit because, I mean, looking at these last couple of weeks, Baker is 100,000% cooked and on his way out of the NFL. Like that is not a thing that is going to be happening in the NFL for much longer.
he has an ankle sprain, so he'll even be out for weeks. So it's
Yeah,
gonna
he
be
didn't even finish.
Donald.
He didn't even finish this week. They had PJ Walker finish the game this week, so we'll see. I think Darnold is an option. I think Walker is an option. We were talking offline that we had wished that their rookie quarterback Matt Corral from Ole Miss that they drafted this last draft didn't get injured because then they could actually throw him out there and see what he has. But Yeah, really, I think it really comes down to DJ Moore. I would hang on to McCaffrey just because he is so versatile, and it's not like he's it's not like he's a Josh Jacobs or even like what we saw yesterday with Mixon, where really most of their passing opportunities go to the backup because they feel more comfortable with the backup as a pass catching option. With McCaffrey, so versatile that they're still going to set up screens for him every game. They're still going to give him his touches in the running game, and he's a great route running, sir, especially if it is a backup quarterback. Backup quarterbacks like to not try to turn the ball over and play a little bit more conservative. So passes closer to the line of scrimmage to a running back might favor McCaffrey. Yeah. So I would personally hold off. The DJ Moore thing is a tough call because wide receiver has become really the value spot in fantasy because that's where a lot of the most
need a good core of receivers.
Yeah, and a lot of the most like the biggest games that we've had this season have come from that wide receiver spot. Outside of a couple of outliers, you had the Taysom Hills yesterday of the world, or Eckler, the guys that are at the top of the RB fantasy discussion. But the DJ Moore thing is tricky because you're not going to get the value you had, especially where he was drafted in his average draft position. But I would personally hang on because I just would rather keep him on the roster and have him not perform than sell super low and risk the possibility of him kind of rounding into form. And this, for him, another reason, this might be a real showcase. Like, all right, I'm going to try to get out of here, so let me try to do absolutely everything possible once I get the ball.
Yeah, for all we know, this could probably even mean he might be traded too. And who knows? I mean, if it came to sell, to me, if you could get a solid wide receiver, if your wide receiver core is like pretty bad for Christian McCaffrey, somewhat of a wide receiver one, I would actually take that deal. Considering if you have a good group of running backs, I think now is the time to sell McCaffrey. DJ Moore, I felt whatever you can get for him, I say take it just because I don't like his quarterback situation too much. The only way I would buy DJ Moore is if he gets traded. I know there's been some rumors of him potentially being traded to Kansas City. I don't think that happens, considering if I even think the Chiefs know. If they know Christian McCaffrey and every team knows McCaffrey somewhat may be available to be traded, they're going to go after Christian McCaffrey. They're not going to go after DJ Moore. So I feel like DJ Moore might get traded, but I feel like it's probably going to be to a team that probably doesn't need him. I could actually see probably DJ Moore like just somewhat of a sneaky trade. He might be traded to the Giants for all we know. Next thing you know, his quarterback is Daniel Jones.
I mean, if they really wanted to do what they did last year, I would say the Rams. I mean, can DJ Moore be the younger version of Robert Woods? And we saw what Woods did in that offense for years. But
yeah,
I don't know, because the thing about receiver is that especially in the NFL, a lot of teams have been trying to build and stack receivers that they're going to try to continue to give their guys opportunities. Yeah, the Giants are obviously a team that could look for a receiver, but I don't know how internally they feel about their prospects of this on the season. Like, I know that their receivers have been struggling, but they still have a lot of money committed to Galladay, and then you add DJ Moore. That's going to be more money going into a wide receiver group that I get that you would be
a lot of money.
Yeah,
that you Shepard making some money. Kadarius Toney, he's a first round pick.
Yeah, so I get you would be improving it, but that's a huge percent of the salary cap that would be committed to that wide receiver group. As far as trades, because I mean, you're not going to trade him in division, so that takes Tampa Bay off.
The Saints are out the board.
Yeah, the Saints are off. I kind of like the Saints receivers group, but I'm trying to think. I mean, because even teams that are like struggling, like as far as like the
maybe Buffalo might try to take a stab at him.
But they're stacked.
But you really solidify that group. Him, Gabe Davis, because Gabe Davis right now he's hit or miss.
Well, it's just when he's healthy, he's been pretty good. When he's not healthy, obviously the numbers haven't been there. But I mean, Crowder and McKenzie as your slot is pretty good. And then they had this Shakar kid that was a rookie that caught a touchdown yesterday as well. I think they're pretty chilling at receiver, because even Kumaro has a connection with Josh Allen in that offense as well. So, and I was thinking the Jets as well, but I think they're going to want, with Corey Davis having been signed last year, they drafted Garrett Wilson. and they like the two running backs. They already have Elijah Moore. They have Braxton Berrios too.
A lot of guys who have a connection with Zach Wilson.
Yeah. So we'll see what ends up happening with DJ Moore. I'm sure it hasn't been the most fun for him, and just looking back at the Matt Rule era in general, he signed 6 years, $72 million to leave Baylor to go become the coach of the Carolina Panthers. This year with I almost called him Sam Mayfield. With Baker Mayfield being a starting quarterback, he went into 3 straight seasons with 3 straight different starting quarterbacks. So it was not the best era, and they put up the stat yesterday during the game that I think they were 1-14 in games in which their defense gave up just 17 points, 17 or more, which 17 is not that crazy of a number for you.
You know how many offensive touchdowns they scored this whole year in the first half?
In the first half, probably 0, maybe 1.
1.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. First half, they don't do anything. That's crazy. And, so, yeah, they signed him 7 years, $62 million, and he's fired less than 3 full seasons into that contract with a record of 11-27.
Yeah, it hasn't looked good. There was times where it looked like, okay, Matt Rule has the Panthers going in the right direction.
That first year, no one expected that. No one expected that first year.
Yeah, it was like, all right, they're moving in the right direction. They bring in Sam Darnold, doesn't work out. Now they bring in Baker Mayfield. That's a garbage fire.
They should have just not let D'Amico Ryans leave their building yesterday as the defensive coordinator of the 49ers. Just make him stay there until you can announce him.
Teddy Bridgewater shouldn't have left as quarterback.
Yeah. And they traded him too. It's not even like they had to. They just said, no, we're good. We're good.
We got Sam.
We got Sam Darnold. And we traded multiple picks for Sam Darnold.
Yep. Well, it wasn't that much. I think they only gave up like a fifth and a third.
I thought they gave up 2/3.
Oh, if it was like 2/3, then I would have if it was 1/3, I'm like okay with it. I'm like,
and they actually have I like players on the roster. Like Brian Burns is good. J.C. Horn has been really good.
I like him
outside of last year because he got injured. They still have Derek Brown, the defensive tackle they drafted in the first round. I like him too. So there's pieces to build. Jeremy Chin, the safety, I like him as well. So there are pieces to build around the defense. Yeah,
it's not bad at all.
Yeah, and it's just they haven't been able to figure out the quarterback. They just haven't been able to.
The line hasn't done that much to help them either.
Oh yeah, their offensive line is abysmal. But I think Baker Mayfield has a 16.5 total QBR this year, which is the lowest after 5 games for any quarterback since ESPN began tracking the number in 2006. So when I say he is playing himself out of the NFL, that is 100% the case.
That's why I feel like it's time to sell. Like with the way how it's going for Carolina right now, I think next week they might get a moral victory with a victory. But after that, I don't see that much happening. I think Steve Wilkes is in a bad situation. So for anyone who has a Panthers fantasy player, I think it's time to sell. As I understand, some of them are good. They have really high upside. But with the way the Panthers are going now in the direction that they are, it's going to be sell and then try to revamp it all into anything that they can next week. But I think because of the bust that Baker Mayfield is, I think it gives us a great introduction to bust of the week. And I think we got to start with we'll go with the minor busts. People that were just a minor bust, they didn't produce as much as they should. Then we'll go into the bigger ones. A minor bust, and this actually leads into a question I wanted to ask you. Mike Evans, he was a bit of a minor bust. He didn't get that much in terms of points. He only got 12 points yesterday. He only got, he had 8 targets, 4 catches for 81 yards after coming off of 8 catches, 103 yards, and 2 touchdowns. But the game probably could have gone to overtime for what we know, and he could have had more chances.
They could have lost straight up. They could have just lost that game.
Yeah, or they could have lost. And the biggest play, because I hate to say this, a lot of people in Tampa, fantasy-wise, they had a good first half, but then they had a bad second half in terms of fantasy numbers. But also, I got to ask you about that play with Brady, that roughing the passer call.
Oh, that is one of the strangest calls I've ever seen. They basically said 15 yards on sportsmanlike conduct for playing football.
Yep.
For playing football. That's all that happened there. And Brady was like kicking him and throwing a tantrum before the play even ended. That was super weird. They basically bailed out the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right there.
Because they bailed them out.
I mean, okay, yeah, we saw the same exact scenario happen with Atlanta in the LA game where, they hung around, and then they had a drive at the end to possibly go ahead in the game, and Mariota threw the pick that Jalen Ramsey caught at the end. So, okay, maybe you can say that happened, but looking at it from my perspective, the Falcons had absolutely all the momentum going into that drive. They sacked Brady, so the defense is going to be coming off the field all hype, and now the offense just has to do their job. And okay, they don't have Pitts, but they were coming back. Like, they were actually moving the ball on this Bucs defense in the second half. So
they were doing a good job.
That was a very, very, very strange call. Like,
and it probably hurt a lot of fantasy implications because who knows if Drake London could have got a last-second touchdown that might have won the game.
It was very weird, and I just don't know what the explanation is going to be for that one. And I think this is starting to get a little bit concerning with the Bucs. Like, this is really starting to be concerning.
The Bucs are a very hit or miss team now, and it's actually giving me concern because I'm like, do I have to trade Mike Evans before it's too late where I can't get anything for him?
And the defense hasn't looked good, and like you look at. So Evans gets 8 targets, gets 81 yards. Godwin gets 6 targets, gets 61 yards. And then Fournette gets 11 targets, 10 catches for 83 yards. So that's 10 yards per target, 10 yards per target, and 7.5 per target. And Brady dropped back for 52 attempts on the game. And that's with multiple backups on that offensive line because of injury and retirement going into the season. And I just simply cannot think that that's the game plan that they should be having right now. And it's not working. It's not like they have an explosive passing game, even with these weapons and even with, passing the ball 52 times. Yeah, Brady's still going to be a good quarterback. He had a good quarterback rating, 92.7, had 1 touchdown, zero interceptions, but 6.8 yards per average. So he's only averaging 1 more yard per attempt than Marcus Mariota, who had only 25 attempts.
Exactly. Like, Brady hasn't been having a good year. Like,
it's just a weird season going on in Tampa Bay. And the defense hasn't looked good, like I said.
The defense looked good for the first couple of games. Then once they played Kansas City, it was just so bad.
Once they played Kansas City, and that's after they looked really good against Green Bay. That's the thing I don't understand, is that they were really good, and that's honestly the part of the team that kept them in the game, because that was the week that they had no receivers. Evans had been suspended. Godwin was out. They were working with a banged up Gage. So it was just like, all right, we expect them to bounce back once they get their weapons back. We'll see more from them, but that's absolutely what did not happen. And I don't really understand. I don't really understand.
I mean, it's kind of an up and down. It's an up and down with them. Because, I mean, Mike Evans was pretty bad in terms of fantasy-wise. Chris Godwin, he was okay.
The best player was Fournette.
Yeah, he was a star. He was a star. And, man, I mean, that's my first bust of the week, and it led to even a controversial topic just for the Bucs as well. Like you said, I really don't like what I'm seeing from the Bucs.
And it's been a really weird, off the field stuff been going on with Brady, and the offense is just not clicking. So I don't know what it is, and I really thought that they were probably the favorites running going into the season from the NFC, and they have a golden opportunity. Yeah, they had a golden opportunity with the Rams falling off as hard as they have, and now it looks like really the only serious contender we can say after this many weeks is the Eagles, because they haven't.
I don't even think the Eagles.
Yeah, and the Eagles are undefeated, but they haven't been finishing games like a team that is truly dominant. So we'll see what happens in the NFC. It's very interesting.
I even hate saying this. You know who actually has a shot at winning this NFC?
Bro, the Cowboys.
The Cowboys. They have a legit shot.
The Cowboys definitely have a legit shot. They have, if you look at it, their roster is low-key stacked. Like, their roster is low-key
stacked. Defensively, they're nice.
Defense has been what's been keeping them in the game. Defense has been what's keeping them in the game.
Imagine what their offense looks like when Dak comes back.
Well, it depends on if they run the same offense. Because when they have Dak, it's like they forget that they have Zeke on the team.
Yeah.
Like they do not run the ball as much as when they have Dak, which okay,
I think
I
because
get
they
it.
know how much they're paying Dak.
I mean, yeah, but they also gave the bag to Zeke. And
Yeah.
like even if you pay your quarterback, like your job is still to make the game easier for him. And
Yeah.
all they do with Cooper Rush is make it as easy as possible. Okay, yeah, I don't want Dak, only throwing the ball 12 times, but if I can run the ball, and then use play action, that's something that would be unbelievable because I never see Dak use play action. And you know how good Dak is over the middle of the field. We've seen Dalton Schultz ball out with him. We've seen CD be good with him. He's I wouldn't say great, but he's a really good quarterback, So I just hope that when he does come back, they don't just say, okay, Dak, let's drop back 62 times a game like we were doing last year. So I hope they do continue to use both the running backs who, for as good as Zeke was, and he did fall off a little bit, he's still a good NFL running back. It's not like he became Todd Gurley on the Rams all of a sudden. Like he's still a productive running back. And Pollard, I think, is really good. I think Pollard is a super good backup. As far as a backup, I think he's probably one of the better backups we have. If he was your starting running back, okay, I would say he's good. But as a backup, that's a really, really good 1-2 punch.
The only thing now, I would even say this to go back to the main topic, bust of the week, bro. Matthew Stafford was a bust again.
Oh, the whole Rams have been a bust.
He was a bust.
The whole entire
Matthew Stafford finished with 10 points.
The only player that showed up for them was Cooper Kupp. That's it.
That's because the whole offense now. Give the ball to Cooper Kupp, and that's it.
Yeah, I if I was a Rams fan, if I worked for that team, I would be super concerned with what I saw this week and last week, especially. Like they are not good. I don't know what that offense is. It doesn't look like the McVay offense we have seen. And really, you could argue this is the worst quarterback play that they've had so far. Because even though they had Goff before,
Jared Goff when he was injured.
Yeah, since Goff got injured, and then even when he came back that Seahawks game, and we were like, "How is he going to do anything?" And he still played all right. Like this is worse than that. Like they're running out fake punts and stuff just to try to keep the offense on the field, and they can't block for Stafford. He is not the best already under pressure, and it's just fallen apart since they traded their draft picks and try to go all in, and then they lost Von Miller and they lost Odell, and the guys that they try to fill the gaps in. Allen Robinson again, 12 yards.
Yep, those fancy implications they are giving owners is quite unreal. Because, bro, outside of Cooper Kupp, I don't think I want anyone on fantasy from the Rams. Outside of like maybe Tyler Higbee, because there'll be like games where
he'll get targets. Yeah, he'll get the targets, but it's not like he's putting up
doesn't get the numbers. Ball. Cam Akers, they're not going to run the ball because they're already down enough, so they're just going to pass the ball. Henderson, he was great the first 2 weeks. After that, gone.
Fell off.
So, bro, the fantasy numbers that the Rams are pulling out.
Even Stafford, I would say so far away from Stafford. Guys not throwing you a pick every game
basically in our league. And I'm pretty sure he will stay a free agent.
Yeah, I would stay far away from Stafford. And it's just I would be very concerned. I honestly, after how they showed this week, going up against a quarterback that threw the ball 16 times, he had 16 attempts for 102 yards. Like that's high school level numbers. Like that is high school level numbers when you just have a stud running back and you're just like, all right, just don't get in the way. Like we're gonna call 20 pass plays, don't get in our way, and that's basically what they did last night with Cooper Rush. And I am completely fine with saying this, tie it into our theme of the week, bust of the week. But I think this loss proves that the LA Rams are not a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, for this year.
Because unless I just don't see it, I don't see a Von Miller becoming available. Even if you bring back Odell, I don't know how he's going to look in year 9. In year 9, coming off an ACL injury, and it's not like Odell can block. Can Odell play left tackle? Yeah, like you lost Whitworth too. Let me not forget Whitworth, who was a stud and played years on years on years on years. Like they're on the struggle bus right now.
Well, I think we've done enough about ranting about the Rams. You got any busts for the week?
Other than T. Higgins, not really, but that was more because of injury. I mean, we could say the Packers offense, Rodgers in general.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers didn't have a good game overall.
And I mean,
It translated into fantasy. It
has he
translated.
had many good games this year?
In fantasy, no, and even in real life, they've been okay. Like I'm not gonna.
Yeah, okay, but not Aaron Rodgers.
I'll,
Aaron Rodgers 2-time MVP.
oh no, 4 time.
Well, I'm saying like back to back.
Yeah, back to
Yeah.
back. But yeah, to Aaron Rodgers standards, yeah, it's not. It wasn't in his game. But you know who's been a star? Well, we'll get to before we get to stars of the week. To go back to the bus, man, another bus. Loki, Aaron Jones.
Yeah, he has not shown up this year. And it's not even like Dylan has been all that good. Like he's been
Yeah, you
whatever.
figured he would get like all the touchdown carries.
Yeah. Like goal line stuff, all that. And he's just been, I would say, whatever on the season. He
Yep.
only had 6 carries yesterday for 34 yards. Jones had 13 for 63, but neither could come up with a touchdown. And it's not even like Jones has really been that productive in the passing game, which I thought, okay, because they're losing weapons in the receiving game, Devontae Adams, let's give the ball carrying duties more to Dylan because he's more the big bruising back, and Jones can be the pass catching option, and he can run the ball when we need him to. And he hasn't been as versatile as he's been in years past, and this is the concern with running backs. The decline comes fast. The decline
Yep.
comes fast.
It does, man. Well, I think we've had enough of bust of the week because I mean we've given our takes and I think they've been pretty a little harsh. But let's take a little break and let's give a shout out to the presenting sponsor of this podcast, E2G Sports. For anyone that doesn't know, E2G Sports has been helping 305 Takes launch this podcast from Spotify, Apple Podcasts everywhere to YouTube, where we now have all of our podcasts. We are live on Mondays at 2:30 p.m., Fridays at 3 o'clock. We are on for an hour long, and E2G Sports, you can not only find us on their YouTube channel for podcasts, you can find First Information, Patriots Place, a bunch of other great podcasts that they have. And if you don't have time to listen to them and you just want a quick read, visit their website, e2gsports.com, where you can find all your latest sports news on NFL, NBA, and so much more. We want to thank E2G so much for helping us transition from audio to audio and video. And now let's get back to our regular scheduled program. And we are going to talk stars of the week in fantasy. So you got any stars?
Star of the week. I mean, it has to be Eckler, no? Maybe even both running backs in that game, but it has to be Eckler, and especially because Eckler hadn't. Yeah, I know. I went against him too in another league, so it is tough to do. But especially because Eckler, I believe, was only sitting running back 5 or 6 coming into this week, and
yeah, now he's like number 1 or number 2 in fantasy.
Well, and now he's more back to where he was drafted, which was top 3 really in every league. He goes for 16 carries, 173 yards. Yesterday, 10.8 yards per carry with 1 touchdown. If you have the boost where it gives you extra points for longs in the game, he had a run of 71 yards yesterday. So he absolutely balled out. Also pitched in a little bit on the receiving game. Modest numbers, 4 receptions, 26 yards, but did add a touchdown. So that definitely helped him. He was an absolute stud. And then even on the flip side of the ball, Nick Chubb put up an absolute dominant game as well, as he went 17 carries, 134 yards, 7.9 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns and a long of 41 on the day. He was pretty dominant. That Chargers team has some problems tackling and kind of looks like they can be run on, but Jacoby Brissett was the one that ended all those plans for the Chargers. Even though Brandon Staley tried his very hardest to let the Browns win that game, and Cade York couldn't clutch it up for them. But yeah, I think I'll start off the week with my 2 stars of the week being the 2 running backs in the Chargers Brown game. Austin Eckler, 173 yards, 2 touchdowns. Chubb, 134 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Those are good stars. 1 star I'm going to mention. This position, they're not known for giving a lot of points. And which is why their draft picks for them in fantasy are they don't get picked into the late rounds. But I do want to give a lot of credit to 3 kickers: Nick Folk, Chase McLaughlin, and Justin Tucker. All of them had over 16 points in fantasy.
Yeah.
all three of them.
Yeah,
Justin Tucker with
Folk,
the least at
5 of 5.
16. Yep, and Folk was unbelievable. Those guys are. I know kicking is kind of boring people, but hey, sometimes those kickers they can get you those little points that just put you over the top,
It
and
all
that can
adds
be the
up, man.
difference.
It
It
all
can be
adds
the
up.
difference. So credit to those kickers, and then my biggest star, it's a tie because they both scored over 30 points. It's Gabe Davis and Justin Jefferson.
Dude, Jefferson is unbelievable.
Gabe
Would he have
Gabe Davis maybe got it with
164?
those two big plays, but Justin
Yeah.
Jefferson was a lot more the first half. But still, those two they got over 30 points at
How much
receiver.
did Jefferson have at halftime? Like 164 yards?
Yeah, he had like 140 yards like receiving, like 8 catches, and then the second half he ended with like 3 catches and something yards.
Yeah, he is really unbelievable, and he's had a couple weeks where you're like, what the heck happened?
Yeah,
But the other weeks in between, it's not even like he's putting up just 20 points. He is dropping bombs out there,
yeah.
dropping bombs.
So I have to give those two credit because they put up over 30 points. 30 points or more. So those two, you guys deserve those stars of the week because you guys were amazing.
Yeah,
Gabe Davis, a lot of big plays. Jefferson, it was a lot of those small chunk plays, but still, those are unbelievable.
Yeah, it really was a crazy game by Gabe Davis. That first long touchdown pass, 98 yards, and then the one-handed catch with Minka trying to rip it away from him. He absolutely had himself a game.
The Minka
And then
one, that was bad because he just ripped it from him.
Yeah, that one was bad, and made the one-handed catch before it. So I was like, "What the? This guy's on a cheat code right now." I'll give a shout out to a couple more running backs, 2 rookies. Brees Hall just absolutely carved up my Dolphins. His backup, Michael Carter, had a solid game as well. And then another rookie, Kenneth Walker. I have him in pretty much all my leagues. I thought he had the potential to be a guy like Javonte Williams was last year, where he would come on late and finally supplant the veterans that were in front of him. And Rashard Penny looks like he's going to be out for a while. So it could be Kenneth Walker's backfield moving forward. I would definitely be looking to add him if I was anybody. Maybe not add him to the starting lineup right away, as he is going to be a rookie and there will be some struggles, I suggest. But I just continue to think because his workload has been so low coming into this week, I think he has a lot of potential to break out and still be healthy going into the home stretch of the season. So a couple running backs. I mean, Brees Hall, I know he had a 78-yard passing reception touchdown. So that was a big chunk for him for fantasy. But Michael Carter also had a solid game. I have him in a couple of
touchdowns.
Yeah, I had him in a couple of leagues, sat him on the bench for both of them. So not the most fun there. But if I know running back is always a position where people are looking to upgrade because you might have an RB2 that doesn't put up points. But I would definitely look at Kenneth Walker the second if you guys can. Seahawks running back. The Jets one is a little bit more of a tough call because you don't know really who's still going to be the lead running back. You would expect they're going to still give Brees Hall, I would say, majority of the touches because that is their rookie. But they did draft Michael Carter the year before. I do think he is a really solid backup running back and can be that more bruiser guy. Yeah, so I think they have. And honestly, after watching that Dolphins Jets game, they do have some talent. I'm still I'm still undecided on if they have a quarterback or not, but they definitely have talent all over the field. I mean, Wilson, he's only had really that one big game against the Browns, but I still think he's really talented. The 2 running backs that we mentioned, and their defense is good. Sauce got his first interception, so I might have to give a star of the week to the Jets. Putting up 40 points on my Dolphins, dude. Whew. That was tough. Not my most fun Sunday. I was over at Inter Miami watching our last regular season game, but it was not the most fun tuning into my second screen because I had it up on the laptop. I was like, yo, I have to be inside. I got to keep up with what the Dolphins were doing. And then once I saw Teddy go out and that play go for a safety, I was like, oh, it's going to be one of those days. One of those days, huh? You're on mute.
Mo, my bad. That transitioned us perfectly to our last segment. Yeah. Dolphins versus Jets reaction, and I think Myles kind of said it for me.
Well, and I'm also for the Dolphins. I think next week is pretty much as close as a must win as you Yeah, and
It's against the Vikings.
it's against the Vikings, and I really think the defense needs to step up because they've had a really weird season.
Yeah, they had that basically. They had the game lost to the Ravens, and then the Ravens somehow decided to let them back in. The
Yeah,
game against the Bills, they gave up so many yards but gave up so few points. And
yeah,
then the game against the Bengals, I'm not going to put too much on defense. I felt once Tua went out, I just felt the whole morale for the Dolphins was just not there. So I'm not going to put too much on the Dolphins defense. But then this past week against the Jets, I'm sorry, you have tape on Zach Wilson. You know it. Almost everyone there is the same except for CJ at tight end and Brees Hall. Outside of
yeah.
that, the rest of it is the exact same as it
Well,
was
and Wilson,
in Garrett
but
Wilson.
it's not like he
But
put up anything that much different. But what's really concerning me with the Dolphins is just the defense has not produced much of anything.
yeah, and
Uh,
X's injury, you could really see like it's playing a big factor on him.
Yeah, he missed yesterday's game, and that means you're down now your top two corners because X is going to be out for the game. Byron Jones, who hasn't played all season, has been out for the game, has been out so far. So now you're down your top two corners that you had projected going into the season. So you have to step up. Needham, you have to the Keon Crossu kid had to be stepped up, and then now Noah Igbenogany has to play roles, and that's a first round pick that you absolutely missed on. And Jalen Phillips goes for 8.5 sacks last year. He has won this. So far this season. Only 12 pressures. Melvin Ingram, he has 2 sacks, and that was our big offseason veteran move. So he's been a pleasant surprise. But Agba, who we signed to the contract last year, has played less snaps than Zach Seitler. So I really don't know what's going on with this defense. Wilkins is not a guy that's really going to give you pressure. So I
Yeah,
don't know what the improvement can be if Agba can step up. So he had 1 sack after producing, I think, 9 last year.
yeah, it
Uh,
was. He had about it was like almost double digit sacks.
and then Pro Football Focus has him rated as the 86th among 104 edge defenders this year, and last year he was 13th. So it's been pretty ugly for the Dolphins, but they have an opportunity to turn it around, and that's why I say this is a must win because I think this can really start some momentum going into the home stretch here. So after Cousins, all right, can we turn Cousins over even without X? Can we get pressure? Like, please, can we not let Jefferson just absolutely cook us? Because if you do that, the next quarterbacks coming up are Kenny Pickett, Jared Goff, Justin Fields, Jacoby Brissett, and Davis Mills.
I mean, if not, they could probably try to pull a stunt by saying, "Hey, let the Vikings run the football like crazy. Let's have Delvin Cook and Alexander Madison beat us, and then we take away Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen in a sense." That could be one strategy. It's like, hey, let them run the football. We'll take away the passing game. Jefferson and Thielen and Osborne, they're not going to beat us. It's going to have to be the running backs. And
That might have to be the game plan. I think that really depends on what happens with Xavier.
yep.
If
And
Xavier
if
is healthy,
Xavier is
okay.
able to do it, I wouldn't even put him on Justin Jefferson because I'm pretty sure they're going to say, Justin, just run, just go deep.
Yeah,
Because
and it depends on what even is healthy for Xavier because he's been able to tough it out through some of the games, and he's not been out there for key moments, which is fine
Higgins
because
really made an embarrassment of him.
yeah, and which is fine when you consider that okay, he's not 100% healthy, but he's giving up a quarterback rating of 183.
Yep. So it's getting bad.
And the Dolphins as a team are giving up 387 yards per game.
Passing, yep. It's that they get off to slow starts. That's the thing with them. It's slow starts, and I mean, I don't know how they're gonna do it, but I mean, if the Dolphins could somehow bounce back and really do something in terms
I
of
mean, I just don't get where Byron Jones is. How serious was this injury? He was put on the, physically unable to perform
yep,
list before the season. So that's 4 weeks. This is week 5 that just passed. You get 21 days after you're put on that list. to gear up for practice before
And it
they
still
have to
hasn't
take you
happened.
off. And he hasn't even started the 21 days process. So I don't know when to expect him back. So that puts even more pressure on Xavier. And when you look at the Dolphins defense, they have a Holland who's versatile enough that can actually cover and get after the quarterback
But it's hard for him to make an impact when he has to do almost everything.
on almost everything. And you can't use him to blitz as much because you need him to help out the corners because you're down your top two. Same thing with Brandon Jones, who led all safeties last year in sacks because he was able to just have free range because they were able to trust their guys one-on-one. And I just don't get what's going on with the defensive line. I get that Wilkins hasn't been the most productive pass rusher throughout his career, but I still think he's been really solid this year. And then you couple him with Raekwon Davis, who he's really good against the run, but he only has half a sack in the 2.5 years that he's played in the NFL. Ogba's being outsnapped by Zach Seitler, Jalen Phillips, who he took over his teammate Greg Rousseau, who has 2.5 sacks this year already.
But then you also have the offense. You also have the offense that hasn't done anything to help him out either. Because once Teddy got put in the game, I'll be honest, like that offense didn't look good. And then Skylar Thompson comes in. I was looking for Skylar Thompson just because he did have a very good preseason. He had a very good preseason, but then the Jets, they kind of just picked him apart. And now that kind of even makes me look at just the offense in general, because now even Tyreek Hill, you sent me the tweet. He left in a walking boot.
Yeah, he left in a walking boot, and
because now Waddle's still banged up. Now you have Hill banged up. A lot of injuries are really piling up on the Dolphins, and it's
Tyron Armstead went out after I think 5 plays yesterday, and he's had a toe problem that was bothering him before the game, and that's what left him.
The injuries are just piling up on the offense and defensive side for the Dolphins. So this stretch of football, like these next 5 games, if they could come out of this like 3-2, I feel like that is a win, or 2-3.
Ooh, I don't know. Because of the quarterbacks you're playing, I think you should be able to win. That's the problem. Because after Cousins, I'm going to read the list to you again. I think they should be favored in all of these games. After the Cousins game.
Who will be available?
So you got where'd he go? You have Kenny Pickett, who looks terrible. Jared Goff. That game, okay. That one, because the Lions have been competitive. I don't know if it's a coin flip. Because if you beat the Patriots like that,
you should be.
And they just shut out Jared Goff with their third string quarterback, you should be able to do whatever you want, even if it is Skylar Thompson. Okay, Justin Fields. You
should beat the Bears.
That one I'm honestly the most scared of. Jacoby Brissett, you need to get the revenge. That one will be tough. Because the Browns are actually good. And Davis Mills. I think, okay, if you lose more than 2 of those games, that might cost you a shot at the playoffs. And I don't know when Tua is expected back, if he's expected back, what game I'm even supposed to be anticipating him coming back. We'll see. It seems like Teddy was held out of the game because of the new clause that they put into the concussion protocol because of what happened to Tua. So I guess there's irony in that a week after it happens to the Dolphins and they have to rewrite protocol into the concussion protocol.
It happens to them.
It comes and bites the Dolphins again. So they're without their quarterback. But I really don't know what they're looking for. I don't know if they're really just trying to protect the quarterback. But Braxton Berrios went into the end zone in that game and got smacked and was sitting on one knee with his helmet off, shaking his head, and no one went to check on him.
No one went to.
So I don't know if it's just a thing about it's only going to look bad if our quarterbacks, if we see it happen to the quarterbacks. And I found it.
Well, we talked about Chris Olave. Everyone saw what happened to Chris Olave.
Yeah, but that was physical. That wasn't because of a hit. You saw what happened right away. And I found it so ironic that Russ, decided that he was going to go try to be a linebacker and chase down the guy with that picked him off. And he gets blocked and gets banged up a little bit. And all they show on the broadcast of the NFL game is the group of 7 people staring at the replay so that they can say, hey, our concussion protocol is actually working. Look, we got 7 different people looking at this. And we're going to keep showing you on the broadcast because we want you to know that we have 7 people looking at this. And this is something we take seriously. But is it because that was another quarterback? I didn't see any of those happening or being showed on any broadcast. So I thought that was very, very fascinating. And the NFL is going to do everything to cover their butts, and unfortunately, it bit the Dolphins in the behind a little bit this week because I don't know how Teddy is feeling. I don't know what his level of availability would have been throughout the rest of the game,
Yeah.
but it definitely was zero after what happened with Tua.
Yeah, it's definitely something to look at because now the NFL rules after this past week with that roughing the passer rule and then the concussion protocol, it's definitely the rules are going to have to be taken looked at very deeply this off season. And the worst part, we're only going into week 6.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of football left to be played.
And that's the thing. That's the thing with the NFL, man. It's just so unpredictable, and that's why you get the upsets, and that's how because you have to look at the strengths and weaknesses. Like,
yep.
Prime example was the Cowboys-Rams game. Rams are 5-point favorites. The Cowboys defensive line was able to control that game the entire time. The Dolphins were really banged up. They couldn't stop the Jets at all on defense, and they're missing their top 2 cornerbacks. Their defensive line can't do anything.
40.
Yeah, the Dolphins' offensive line was terrible. Once Armstead went out, the guy that replaced him gave up 5 pressures. Greg Little gave up 3 pressures. So it's Skylar Thompson. Okay, maybe he is better than what he showed, but he's not going to show it when there's constant pressure. And, like you said, we're only going into week 6 next week, and there's 17 of these weeks. So that's a lot of more time for
playoffs.
Yeah, that's a lot more time for a lot of more influx. And, who knows? That's why you get teams that okay, they might have only 1 win. The Texans might be able to hang around. That I told you guys on Friday that I was picking the Bears to win. They tried their damnedest to hang around against the Vikings, but they still covered. They got the 9. They moved all the way up to 9 on Sunday. So I grabbed the +9, but they weren't able to cover the money line. But I think this has been a really fascinating NFL season, and we have a lot of teams that are just jumbled up together. And depending on what an injury report looks like,
surprises
could change stuff. Yeah, the Falcons have been surprisingly competitive.
Yep. Bro, biggest surprise. Who thought the Giants were going to be 4-1?
And beat the Packers.
Yeah,
and beat the Packers, which is the crazy part. After losing at home to Cooper Rush on Monday Night Football, they go and beat the Packers.
But I also kind of look at the schedules, like the way how some teams were presenting schedules, because we look at the Giants. I mean, they beat the Titans, so I was like, okay, that's a solid win. I'm not going to say it's an easy win, but it's a solid win.
Yeah.
You beat Baker. We know the Panthers now. You beat the Bears.
You gotta play who's in front of you though, and they try to lose that one to the Bears.
Yeah,
they beat the Bears with the last 5 minutes with no quarterback too. Yeah, so they made it as hard as possible. That's what I'm saying, bro. Saquon, man. That's what I'm saying. These injuries are definitely going to play a key part as we keep going throughout the season.
Yep, injuries. I mean, whichever team is healthy going into the playoffs, you gotta love their chances. But before we sign off, I just want to talk real quick. This is outside of fantasy football and football in general. Bro, you do not know how happy I was, and I was laughing when I saw the Mets lose.
Oh, I was so upset for not betting the Padres to win the series.
I was so...
I had it flipped. I thought they would lose the Scherzer game. And win the next 2.
But you got the Mariners game, right? The Mariners won.
The Mariners won and won the series. I did not expect them to win the first 2 like that. Send the Blue Jays later.
2, that was insane. Oh my god! You're down 8-1 going into the 6th inning, and then you win the game 10-9.
Yeah, that was crazy, and I thought it was just poor. I don't want to say poor Mets fan because they're kind of like the Jets, but I mean this was really their season. DeGrom's going to be, I think, 35 going into next year.
No, 33, 30. Yeah, 33 years old, but he's going into a free agency year.
That's crazy. I thought they re-signed him. I thought they gave him a 1-year bag.
It was last year, but he has the option to opt out, and most likely he's going to opt out.
I mean, I wouldn't blame. I mean, but he did get kind of smacked at the end of this year. It wasn't a typical DeGrom year.
I mean, hey, they had all the momentum. They had a 10.5 game lead, and they blew it.
Yeah, that's what really screwed them over. If they would have kept it, they would have never even had to play in the series. And who knows? Maybe the Padres have lightning in a bottle and beat the Braves, but I think there's absolutely no way. I think the one upset I do see happening is I could see the Mariners beating the Astros, but if that doesn't happen,
well, I would be so happy.
If that doesn't happen, I think the Astros are in the World Series playing. either the Dodgers or the Braves. I think that'll be the fascinating matchup because I think the Braves and Dodgers are so stacked.
I will say this: if the Braves get to the World Series, they win. Like flat out, they win. But I will take if the Dodgers make it to the World Series. If they play the Astros, I think they beat the Astros. But if they play the Yankees, I legit think they don't beat the Yankees. I don't think they beat them.
But there's no way the Yankees make it. There's no way.
Unless
they beat the Mariners.
I'm holding off fate because I've been cheated out of it so many goddamn times. I am waiting for this goddamn.
Cheated out of what?
Okay, 2017.
You guys were cheating too. What happened to your report? What happened to your report that magically disappeared?
First of all, they looked at it and it was proof that there was no cheating. So,
oh my goodness,
the report is out
there.
Who
looked at it? Who looked at it? The commissioner's office that didn't want any other teams to be reported of cheating outside of the two that one that suspended their manager and the one that had to fire their manager.
Well, all I know is that right now it's been proven that there's no cheating. So, boom, no cheating. Astros, they cheated like no one's ever cheated before, and the players still got away with it. Then 2018, Boston was cheated too. So that's another cheating scandal that went up.
You guys were cheating too.
2018, I will not. Bro, you know what's the Red Sox batting average with runners in scoring position with 2 outs? What? They were batting 290. The Nets' closest team was batting 230.
Yeah, that is pretty crazy.
Let that sink in.
But they also were stacked. They did have a good team.
They had a solid team. I will give them solid. Their pitching was like a gold mine. Their hitting was like, it was on and off for me. Then 2019, no one cannot tell me Jose Altuve was not wearing a buzzer because why do you have to go into the locker room, change your shirt to come out and do an interview and say, I had a bad tattoo. But then next year, when you play the Yankees, you hit a walk-off homer, they rip off your jersey, and there's no evidence of a tattoo.
It is suspicious. I will give you that. It is
so they can't tell me there's nothing there.
But you guys weren't World Series teams.
But 2017, bro, I could tell you this. I legit told people, I was like, watch, the Yankees can win it all. I told people that.
Yeah, they can.
Thought I was crazy.
They can.
They thought I was crazy.
They can. But when you look at the Astros, they were the more talented team.
And exactly, why do they need to cheat?
Exactly. I do agree on that. I do agree on the cheating part. But, there is the classic saying. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
That part. But then thank goodness for the Nationals, how they exposed them, and the Braves, how they did last year. Because, bro, I would tell you this. I was rooting so hard for any team that plays against the Astros. I was rooting like crazy. Because I was
that Braves team, they just were hitting dinger after dinger after dinger off them. I mean, so Larry got the bag from the Marlins from that series, dude. And the Braves last year does not make sense because they literally all those trades at the deadline. I was like, and they had no Acuna.
Yep,
and they still just won. They just still won the World Series.
And
now they lose Freddie Freeman, and Acuna isn't even all the way back, and Ozzy Albies isn't even all the way back, and it's like, all right, we're chilling. We got more guys coming up.
Acuna for this playoff push, so at least they still have their bat. The only thing that hurts them, they don't have Ozzy Albies, so at least.
Yeah, but I mean, the kid that they called up, the Grissom kid, was good while he was up. The Michael Harris kid is good.
Michael Harris has been really good, good. I think he might win Rookie of the Year.
And it's like, how do you make all these trades that help benefit you for the World Series the previous year? And then you got all these prospects just waiting to get called up. Snicker, Michael Harris, the Grissom kid. It's like, and then you still have enough prospects to trade for Matt Olson. It's like, yo, what Ponzi scheme are y'all running right now?
Yeah, no, it just shows how great their farm system is. It really does. It shows.
And they've been pretty much lights out as far as acquisitions go. They haven't really. I mean, I guess you could say Ozuna, but even with Ozuna not being the player that he is, he could still run into a pitch, send it out of the ballpark. But they've been pretty lights out with everybody that they've acquired.
Yeah. Well, guys, that was it for us. We've had a good time. We're going to come back on Friday. We might have a special guest. We're still not sure yet. But if we do, we're going to have a fun show for you either way. We're going to talk some bets, fantasy football, and who knows, we might even talk some baseball because by then a couple of the playoff games have already started. We'll see what it looks like. But until next time, guys.
Peace.